Reading from the 7th chapter of the first book of Samuel. When the Philistines heard that the Israelites had assembled at Mizpah, the Philistine rulers went up to attack Israel. When the Israelites learned of this, they were afraid of the Philistines. The Israelites said to Samuel, "Please don't stop praying to the Lord our God for us, for God will save us from the Philistines' power." So Samuel took a suckling lamb and offered it as an entirely burnt offering to the Lord. Samuel cried out in prayer to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered. While Samuel was offering the entirely burnt offering, the Philistines advanced to attack Israel. But the Lord thundered against the Philistines with a great blast on that very day, throwing the Philistines into such a panic that they were defeated. No, Israel. The Israelite soldiers came out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines. They struck them down until they reached a place just below Bethkar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Jeshanah. He named it Ebenezer, explaining, "The Lord has helped us to this very point." So the Philistines were defeated. They stopped coming into Israelite territory. The Lord's hand was against the Philistines throughout Samuel's life. The towns the Philistines had captured from Israel, Ekron to Gath, were returned to Israel. Israel also recovered the territory around these two cities from the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. The Word of God for the people of God. Bow with me for a moment of prayer. Make the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts acceptable in your sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Some years ago now, there was one of these rages that goes through for pet rocks. Anyone remember pet rocks? Yeah. Well, as far as I can remember, I never received one or gave one, but I understand some of the fascination with rocks. Pastor Sri has mentioned the same thing. It used to be on my desk. I had a little Petoskey stone, about the size of this one. This is a Petoskey. I liked having it there, thousands of years old. And every once in a while, when some of the problems came around, I could look at that and kind of set it all in perspective. What's it going to be in a few thousand years? And I have some on the bookshelf at home now, reminding me of some special places. One was white, a piece of white granite about so big. But all around it, there's about a 3/4 inch row of ash, telling me that sometime in that rock's life, it went through a forest fire. A heart burned the ash into the edge of the rock. I have another one, a fairly large piece of slate. It's on one of the first hikes I did with a group of youth when we were starting a backpacking ministry in the New Jersey Conference along a part of the Appalachian Trail. Those and a few others say serve as bookings now. But with all my enjoyment of rocks, I've never gone as far as the man that Annie Dillard talks about in her title chapter of her book, Teaching a Stone to Talk. She writes, "The island where I live is peopled with cranks like myself. In a cedar shake shack on itself, we all live like this, is a man in his 30s who lives with a stone he's trying to teach to talk. He keeps it on a shelf. Usually the stone lies protected with a square of tanned leather, like a canary asleep under a cloth. There he removes the cover for the stone's lessons, or more accurately, I should say, for the rituals that they perform together several times a day. Reports differ," she adds, "on what precisely he expects the stone to say." Actually, when you get beyond the literalness of it, the idea of talking with rocks is not that far-fetched. I mean, some people do it all the time. Take a walk with a Park Service geologist in some place like Glacier National Park. You'll hear them talk about sedimentary rock, metamorphic rock, igneous rock. You'll hear references to shale and sand and fossil, or he or she, as the case might be. We'll mention upthrust. We won't be talking about rocket engines. Or he may talk shift. He's not talking about the gears on a sport car. Or plates doesn't mean dinnerware or how you set the table. And polish doesn't refer to dress shoes. It's all about rocks. There's a place on the trip to Grinnell Glacier where you walk over waves in the rock. You know, the kind you see on the beach where the waves have come in and made the waves in the dirt or in the sand. That rock is telling you that once upon a time it was the edge of the lake or the seashore. Now it's a mile high in the air on a trail of glacier. I visited an oil company engineer, research scientists, as they study borings that have gone down a mile or more into the earth. They'll look at those borings and have computer printouts of them, and then they'll offer their recommendations: drill here, or don't waste time. It's not magic. They've been talking to rocks. One of the media splashes several years ago about possible evidence of life on Mars was not about the wreckage of a flying saucer in the Arizona desert, but about a rock. Like Samuel in our scripture lesson, they even gave it a name. They called it ALH 84001. You thought Ebenezer was strange. They call it ALF for short. We were brought back from an expedition to the South Pole. The geologist, Roberta Spohr, said she picked up the rock because she was attracted by its beautiful, bright green glow in the blue ice. I've done that, haven't you? Not in the South Pole, but I mean, pick up a pretty rock someplace just because you like the color or the shape or something about it. Well, the scientists started conversing with that rock, as you will. It took them a long time, but they finally determined that it was one of the 12 only samples at the time of a meteorite from Mars. And it suggested the possibility of life there eons ago, before Mars was cold, like dry, like it is now. So you don't have to be a NASA scientist or geologist or college graduate to talk with rocks. When two of our granddaughters returned from a vacation trip, field trip in Michigan's Upper Peninsula a few years ago, they stopped by and showed us their treasures. You know what a lot of them were? Rocks. Their special treasure was a phosphor stone, that special rock found only on the shores of Michigan's lakes. Rumor had it that their other grandfather was going along ahead of them, seeing rocks. But whatever, they've been talking with rocks. But enough about rocks in other places. What about the Bible? As Pastor Street reminds us in recent sermons, or if you've ever visited the Holy Land, studied its geology, you might understand why the Bible knows so much about rocks. Rabbis have a creation story that says when God created the world, He called 7 angels and gave each of them a bag of rocks and told them to scatter them across the earth. And it's told that the angel flying over the land of Israel, the bag broke. And it dumped all those rocks there. If you've been there, about it. There's some places where rocks are all you've got. It's the land of rocks. They don't go out and hold conversations like Eddie Hilliard's friend is trying to do. But they put rocks in pillars, rocks in altars, and they expected them to convey a message to those who came after. Some years ago on a study trip to the Sinai, a small group of us stood around a formation of 12 large stones together, made an altar in the desert. And nearby there were a lot of small stones that marked as campsites that had been there. And in the distance and the other way, there was the face of the mountain. We stood there and we read a passage from the book of Exodus. And Moses rose early in the morning and built an altar to the mountain and set up 12 pillars corresponding to the 12 tribes of Israel. No one knows if this was these particular stones in the desert from Moses, or if the mountain before us was the one referred to in Scripture. It wasn't the traditional Mount Sinai. It was a mountain called Karkum in the Israeli part of Sinai. Professor Manahi, the site's discoverer and explorer, feels that it's the truth. After all, there was no billiard board throughout that said, this is the real Mount Sinai. They only left rocks. Those stones didn't answer the question for us that day, but they spoke to us nevertheless. He told us that this was someone's holy place, that people worship here. That's the sense in which I'm talking to you about talking with rocks today. It was in that tradition that the age of Samuel, that Old Testament bridge between priest and prophet, set up the stone that he named Ebenezer and made a monument of remembrance after the battle of the Philistines. Perhaps the only Ebenezer a lot of people know about is the one in Dickens' Christmas Carol. Other than that usage, the word doesn't have much meaning for us. The Bible dictionary says it means stone of help. Often when most one's singing that old hymn that mentions it, just wonder what it means and thinks it's another one of those funny church words that you don't hear anyplace else. There I raise my Ebenezer, it is by thy help I've gone. But talking with rocks has a long history in the Bible. When Samuel did that, he joined a long tradition. It was not only Moses in the desert who preceded him, with an altar of 12 stones. We're told that Noah built an altar when the flood subsided. That Abraham had built altars in his journey into the land. Rock is there all through this book, all through the generations of Scripture. It was an opening in the rock, cut in the rock, where Moses waited for the glory of God passed by on the mountain. Pastor Cherie reminded us a couple of weeks ago, Jacob, after using a stone for a pillow, set it up as a monument stone to remember that place. And then there was Joshua's memorial, the crossing of Jordan. No, Samuel wasn't the first, and he wasn't the last. A few years later, David, in the wilderness with his little band, hiding from King Saul, who was out to kill him, murmured one evening, all for a drink of water from the well in the town, my hometown of Bethlehem. Some of his men heard him say it, and they slipped off into the night, slipped through the enemy forces into Bethlehem, and filled a goatskin bag with water from the well. And brought it out to David. You know what David did? He said, "This is too precious to drink." He poured it over a rock as an offering of worship and gratitude to God. Later still, Jesus would pray amidst the stones of the wilderness and the lonely places. Tradition suggests beside a rock in Gethsemane. He called Simon Peter's confession a rock on which he would build his church. And the entry into Jerusalem told his disciples if the people were silent, the stones would cry out. And remember at the point that the name of that shrine has become a center of contention in the Middle East, Jerusalem, Dome Rock, a place that remembers where Abraham was told not to sacrifice his son. So you thought Andy Dillion's friend was eccentric, trying to talk with rocks? Not really. There's a sense in which we all need to do that now and then. That is, set up rocks in remembrance, at least symbolically. Mark some moment in our lives that we must not forget. Some moment out of which so much of the rest of life really flows. A touchstone, if you will. Kind of invite us to stop and think and remember. The temptation conquered, the failure overcome, tragedy triumphed, the sin forgiven, a life renewed, friendship restored, reborn, prayer answered, direction established. Events worth remembering as rocks. So we all need to have them. But it may be a person, not a thing. But as the TV commercial so often says, wait, there's more. You know the image of God that the Bible uses the most? I know the commandment said not to have any graven images, but it's talking about statue kinds of God, statue of God. Word images, you can't talk without that. The Bible uses word images of God every now and then. You know what the one they use the most? And centuries later, we find Paul writing in the letter to the Corinthians, Christ, that rock was Christ. Why is the Bible used rock so often as an image of God? Well, maybe it's part of the reason is because rock was the most lasting kind of thing they could think of. The rock was always there. They likened their lives to dust, to grass. God was a rock. Perhaps it was because in the desert land, where it seldom rained, a high rock was a safe place when the flash floods came roaring down the bodies from the rainfall in the mountains far away. One night on that Sinai study trip I mentioned a moment ago, we camped out in Hawaii. We'd driven up there to look at an old Roman watch place. And we rolled our sleeping bags out in the wide sand of the wadi. We were just getting ready to go to sleep, and I heard some thunder in the mountains. I went to our leader and told him, and we gathered the group, made a dash for the bus. We'd driven there and rode out. And even as we were riding out, water was coming down the wadi, washing away the edges of the road that we had driven in. We had a vivid lesson of understanding why. When that watchtower we went in to look at that Roman watch position was high on the rock, on the edge of that body. Not just so they could see better, because it was a safe place. The floods came rolling down. There's an old hymn that sums up some of that imagery. If I could sing, I would, but I promised long ago to try to avoid singing near microphones. So I will just share the words. Oh, then, for the rock that we fly, the rock is higher than I. Perhaps they called God a rock because rock was the material that made their houses able to withstand the storms, and the walls of the city strong, providing protection from their enemies. So Jesus spoke of a house built on a rock. And so the psalmist often links rock with fortress and strong in his imagery. Perhaps they called God a rock because in a barren land, a desert land, the shadow of a giant rock was the only place to find shelter from the burning sun. There was nothing else around to cast a shadow. And the lee side of those rocks in the desert was the only place to find shelter from the sandstorms that came raging across. You got on the opposite side of the rock, and the wind carried the sand around you instead of burying you in. One of our favorite Lenten hymns borrows that imagery from the Psalms on rocks and applies it to the cross. Remember it? Beneath the cross of Jesus, I fain will take my stand, the shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within the wilderness, rest on the way, from burning the noontide heat and burden of the day. You were given a rock when you came in this morning, and since you've been kind enough not to throw it to me so far, let me invite you to take it home with you and keep it around for a while. Put it on your desk, on the bureau, or kitchen counter, or windowsill, and converse with it. Then a few moments in reflection of where back across your life you have, or now that you think about it, you should have put a stone, some Ebenezer stone, a maker, some marker, or some place or time where God touched your life and left you feeling like grateful Samuel, or awed and trembling Jacob, or grateful David, or brave Joshua. Or let it speak to you of a person who touched and shaped your life. A grandparent, pastor, friend, teacher, or some stranger you may not even know, who in some way made a difference in your life. Let it remind you of all those places or people you need to remember. But most of all, let it remind you of God, who has been and is a rock for you. A rock of refuge, a rock of strength, a rock of shelter, a rock of salvation. You might even copy old Samuel and name it Ebenezer. After all, as I said earlier, what the word means is God is our help. That's what it's all about, isn't it? For the places, for the people. We have come this far by God's help. God's grace, here we are. That's why the one line of that closing hymn that I quoted earlier says on the desk, Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help. That rock